Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hockey Pool. I'm Andrew. I'm going to take you through how to get your pool set up here. If this is the first time to the Hockey Pool, I'm going to take you through it step by step here. So very first thing you're going to want to do is change your admin password. So go in here, put in the temp password that was sent to you or given to you, and put in a new password that you can remember, and then change password. I'm not going to do that here because I've already done it. And then just to make sure you've got the proper number of poolies drafting, the number of owners, and the number of players they're going to draft per round, go in here. Just double check that is what you expect it to be. If it's different, maybe you're using last year's pool and you've got a different number this year, say only 4 drafted. If you change it, it's going to say, wait a second, you're going to destroy a team in case you've got players drafted on it. I know my pool is empty, so I understand. I'm going to say to destroy that team. That's fine. Let's go down to 4. I'm going to go back to 5 just for now. And then come back here. And the very first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start drafting some players. So you go in here, initialize and edit pool. First, there's a bunch of defaults that you're going to want to set up here. Paid status is a little thing that lets you say, yeah, this poolie has paid their entry fee, in case you want to keep track of that and shame people that haven't paid on the daily stats page. It'll show a little green check mark next to those that have paid, and those that have not will be, feeling shame and whatnot. I don't need that right now. Salaries and salary cap, this is generally for regular season pools. There's more information there if you want to follow that. Contract terms, similarly, what it'll let you do is on the admin page here, you can put in a contract dollar, and I think you can also put in some text here, whatever you need to put in there to keep track of if your pool tracks that sort of thing. It's not common. Bonus points, similarly, bonus points allow you to go in here and say, hey, my players have a point category that the NHL and the Hockey Pool don't score on, say like player of the week or something like that, and I want to add bonus points to that player. You can type a number in there. Please use fractions or whole numbers. Show a player's full season points as their NHL position, because we let you draft players as any category you want. You can pick like a goon player that gets points for penalty minutes, for example. So that will clicking this one will have it show you the points for your penalty scorer player. So if he gets 2 points per penalty or something like that, it'll show that point, and then it'll show the actual NHL point total for that player next to it. So that's the way to kind of track that. Do not show mobile versions on phones and tablets. By default, we kind of use a compacted display for phones and tablets due to data restrictions. If you don't want that to happen, if you want the full version, you've got plenty of data, you're always on Wi-Fi, go ahead and check that on. Rotisserie style scoring, again, more info in there. If you know rotisserie, great. If you don't, read up on it. It's fantastic. Box draft. So by default, we assume that you're going to do a draft where only one person will select one player. You can't have multiple people with the same player. A box draft assumes that you're going to have multiple people with the same player on the team. And there's a whole section on box drafting. Go in there for more info, and you can watch that video and find out what it is. It's like the old newspapers. You remember newspapers? They used to have little boxes of players of similar skills, and you kind of selected one person from each box, or maybe 2 people from a box, based on the box that was set up. And that way, people that aren't maybe as familiar with the player's skills can enter a pool. It makes it a little easier for them, a little quicker to draft, because everyone can draft independently. Anyways, whole thing on box drafting in there, and we support that, of course. Poolies enter their own teams by typing in player names. That's going to get them into an interface here, very much like what I'm going to show you in a minute for how you as administrator might enter the poolie players. I don't highly recommend this. You're going to have to double check they haven't done anything silly like, draft, McDavid 12 times instead of really going through and following whatever your pool rules are. So I would say don't do that. I would recommend you use live draft instead, which is another feature again. I'll touch on it in just a moment, just briefly, and then there's a whole section on how to do a live draft. Show empty spots on the daily stats page. This is probably not something that's going to apply to you, but if you say have teams that can have a different number of players, so due to trades or due to whatever terms, if some team has 30 and another has 32, and you've got the number of players on showing as 32, there might be 2 empty slots on some player's team. This tells you not to show them. It's very simple. There's more info there. Compact display for pools with a lot of roster moves. This is basically only if you have a lot of trades and a player can appear on a roster more than once. That will collapse that multiple trades into a single line, so you get just a single stats display for that player. Again, not a common thing. And sort edit players by name. So this is something just for the administrator. And basically what it will do is by default, the players, when you go to this edit players tab we're about to go to, it'll sort by the player draft position. If you don't want that and you want to sort it by the player's name, it will sort by the player's name here. So last name, of course, Bax, Bishop, Burns. Again, it's for the administrator. It's a convenience feature. Some people asked for it and we added it. That's how we do things. I'm going to just get some of these things off because they don't really matter to us. And then you would go in and you would, name your teams here. So let's call this Alice. Let's call this Bob. Let's call this Christy. Let's call this Dawn. Let's call this Aaron. Sure, why not? And then you've got your team's name. So this is Team Alice. It can sometimes mess up if you use, fancy characters that might be considered directives for URLs or databases. Those things tend to get flagged as hacks. So I'd kind of shy away. I think the ampersand's fine, but I would shy away from using any super fancy, complicated characters in there. All right, so you've got your teams there. Oh, and you've also got a sort by here. So you can actually set the initial sorting to by team. So the players will be sorted by the teams they're on, or they'll be sorted by the points they score, or those will be sorted by the order they were drafted, the player type, the points per game, or active dropped. Again, you can set this as the initial sorting method. Your poolies can go in and change that if you have trash talk on, or by clicking on the top of a column, it will resort the stats based on that column. That might be more difficult on a cell phone, but on the computer, that certainly works. Oh, why are you on draft order? There you go. All right, so we're going to edit team 1. And it's pretty straightforward. You've got your 8 selections for Team Alice. And let's just say that by default, I'm sorry, just going to open another window over here for no reason. No reason, it's fine. Just give me because I can never think of players' names in the moment when I'm trying to do an example here like this. So let's just say that they go in and they, hey, come here. Yeah. So they go in and they want, Kucherov as their first draft, and then they have McKinnon. This is a pretty high-powered team here. They got McDavid in the 3rd round. I think that's unlikely, but that's what I'm doing here. And Panarin. So this is going to be a high-powered team, obviously. Anyways, that being as it is. So you type in the names. You generally only need the first few letters of the name, and you can find the player you're looking for. Then click on it, and it fills in this form. Really important is that that number in square brackets is at the end of the name, because that's what we use to look up the database. Once you get all the players entered, you hit update, and it will actually enroll them. And you can then, if you'd like, change the player type that they're going to be scored on the team, or as. So by default, it is their NHL positions of record, and you get it in, and you can do that, and then you go to the next team, and you can do the same thing, going through all of your player selections like that. Now, if you make a mistake on a team here, so say you've saved, and someone comes back and says, "Oh, I didn't draft Panarin, I drafted Pasternak," and everyone agrees that yeah, that was a typo you made there. You can come back in here, and you can just go to that player and update it, and then when you hit update here, Panarin will be gone and Pasternak will be drafted in their place. There are timed trades. If you want to do a trade at a certain point in the season, that's through a different mechanism, but this is just to fully replace the player and grab all 30 points. This will do that by default. So there you go. So enter the teams like that. For drafting help, we have the NHL player stats here. You can go to the season that you're looking at. You'll see all the teams here, and you'll see if anyone has injuries. It will show them if you hover over the team, the player name in blue. And if you go way down to the bottom of the page, you'll see every injury that we know about at the moment. We update that daily. And if you only want to show playoff bound teams, you can click that. And then as of today, these are the teams that are playoff bound. There's still obviously a few spots yet to sort out. So only these players that are mathematically eliminated are on this page at the moment. Although I just noticed that Montreal and not Seattle, Montreal and another team, Ottawa maybe, were eliminated the other day, and so that needs to be updated. So there's your drafting help there. Again, like I said, I wouldn't recommend letting players type in their own teams like that. Your poolies type in your own teams. What I would do instead would be to use the live draft functionality. And yes, I don't want that. Let's erase my pool. Confirm. Okay, will this restart properly? There we go. Okay. And I did that too quickly, so I'm just going to name these teams very, very simply. I erased it. And live draft really doesn't like that. Anyways, that won't show up for you because that's not a feature that's working for everyone yet, but it showed up for me. Pretend you saw nothing. Here's what you're going to see when you go to live draft. It is basically this. It's the players sorted by their points scored in the previous season, which will be the regular season for both next season. It will also show you the 23-24 stats. And for this season, it'll show you the 23-24 stats. However, it will have taken out any players that are on teams that are not in the playoffs. So you can go through and very quickly draft Kucherov just by clicking on this draft button. You can do the same thing you did in the other entry tool. So you can still type in McDavid if you want and hit return, and it will draft that player. This also shows you the injury report. Your poolies can open this link, which is while you're drafting, what it will do, go to that tab, it will show you the playoff East versus West, or if it's the regular season, it'll just show you all the teams in alphabetical order. But during the playoffs, it will show you the top undrafted players on each team. So there's Panarin on that list there. So let's go in and draft Panarin next. There we go. We're working on improving this too. Right now, it will refresh every 30 seconds, or you can force a refresh if you know a draft round has happened, and you will see Panarin disappeared from the top of the Rangers. So this will be an interactive way for that person in your pool that always asks, oh, is McDavid still available on round 8 or something like that? They can look at this and they can say, no, it's not. So this is something they can look at while you are doing the live draft here and running it for your people. So there's two ways to do that. If there's a mistake, say they didn't get Panarin, they want to pass Pasternak, you can just use the browser's back button and redraft that player, and it will correct that. So you can do interactive recorrections. If they're asking for a player from a team that doesn't show a player up in the top list and you're looking down for them, you can't find them, you can actually click on the team name there and it will show you the undrafted players for each team, and you can draft Krill. If someone else comes in here and wants to play from Minnesota, you can see the Krill is taken off that list. So this is a very interactive tool that gets players out of the way once they're drafted, so you avoid redrafting. It also keeps track at the top here of the number of player positions that you have drafted. So if you draft a defenseman, say, let's take Quinn Hughes. Again, that's not going to show up for you. You'll see that one defenseman is listed up there, and it will also track goalies, or if you draft teams. So instead of drafting a goalie, you can draft a goaltender team. So let's say you take the Leafs, you type that in the name of the team, and then you get a team drafted there, and there's all sorts of things to set up team scoring. That's not a different page there. Anyways, I would super recommend that you get live draft and you use this to run your pools as a draft, because you can do it interactively. Everyone can see what's going on. And for us, it's helped it run much smoother. That just means that everyone has to be on a Wi-Fi and have their computers or their tablets or whatever nearby as they do the draft. But as more and more of our research is online now, we think that's a fantastic way to do it. Anyway, let's go back to the min page. I think that's mostly it. Again, there's ton of other features in here to explore. We've tried to have a learn more link on everything that you can at least read up on it. We're slowly going through and redoing all the videos on these things. Top scorer pools, so that's where if you draft 12 players but only top 10 count, or if you draft 10 forwards, 4 defensemen, or 2 goalies, but only the top 8 forwards, 2 defensemen, or 1 goalie count. You can do all sorts of combinations of like limiting the types of scoring players that happen, so that as people jockey for position, you kind of cull those players that are maybe not scoring well or injured, they can automatically fall off. That's the type of pool you would set up for that. Point scoring, you can customize the heck out of the point scoring here. So you've got the regular point scorers here, forward through right wing. There's also a bonehead in there and a penalty player. So you've got those sorts of things. And there's also custom A, B, and C. So you've got a lot of different kinds of scoring that you can have for players. So you can have all sorts of subcategories of scoring for players. And they can score on pretty much any stat that the NHL tracks, as well as some that they don't. For example, we have shootout goal and shootout miss. We have for players that they're taking shootout shots, empty net goals, empty net assists, empty net plus minus. So you can, for some pools, they don't like the fact that you get extra points for empty nets, and they want to subtract that out, so they can put a -1 in here for empty net goals. Anyways, all customizable. You got more questions than that. And then goaltending teams. So there's a bunch of caveats down here on how goalies and goaltending teams are slightly different, but it's super helpful, and especially if you wanted to score on things like 1 goal against game, 3 goal against games, loss in any kind or win in any kind of time frame here. Goalie goals, goalie assists. It'll sum up all the goalies on the team and give you those points for that. This is for the playoffs here. If you want to give them bonus points for winning round 1, 2, 3, or winning the cup, you can give them extra bonus points if the team you selected goes all the way and wins those things, and some consolation points for losing those things as well. We think it's super customizable. Since that's point scoring. Charts, you can select what charts appear on which days based on what you want. Box draft opens up a bunch of most commonly drafted player charts and number of shared players, all sorts of fun charts in there, great to explore. Trash talk, you want your poolies to be able to trash talk each other. You can set up passwords for them here and send them to each one. All sorts of things to control, read up on it, play around with things, press buttons. Rotisserie scoring, if you do have a rotisserie scoring league, enable that and set your scoring appropriately. Head-to-head matchups, again, this is generally for regular seasons where you want, player A versus player B in week 1, and then player A versus player C in week 2. Please contact us and let us know you're going to use this if you are, and tell us the configuration of your team so that we can make sure that the head-to-head matchups work. Box draft, I mentioned that before. This is, again, the method if you want to pick a bunch of players of kind of similar skill and let people choose from a box. There's a tutorial there about it. It goes way into depth on it. So that's a different way of setting it up. And then those are initial setup functions up there, periodic updates, trade settings if you want to do trades and approve requested trades. Edit your pool announcement, something that's going to appear at the top of everyone's page. It's like, hey, everybody, we're getting together at Joe's Diner tomorrow for drinks to watch the game. A payout chart, this is just like a spreadsheet you can add to it. That gives you a payout chart and some regular season stats here. This lets you record a previous season if you want to combine 2 seasons. For example, if you've got a league that goes for the first half of the season, then you redraft and do the second half of the season, but you want to combine points. This is a way that you can override our default calculation. And then, of course, view the daily stats page. I would recommend using the new format to view the daily stats page. It's the one we debug the most. And that will show you your standings day to day. And this is the page that everyone wants to come back to on a regular basis. And then, of course, snapshot. If you want to take a snapshot of what your pool draft and points look like on a certain date, go there. A bunch of things over here for active or reserve. If you want to do that, that's a pretty niche thing where people do week to week, you know, roster moves. They bench certain players, they activate other players. And again, if you've got a keeper league and you go season to season, you can go back to a previous season. And you can then bring those players forward, copy them forward. Again, the pool should be empty when you do that. It will try to not let you overwrite it if you've got any players drafted up here or you've got any player names there. Contact us if you have any problems. Thanks.